Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to Piano Tech Radio Hour. Excellent to have you join us today. Somehow I just maybe accidentally hid my video, but here I am. I'm back again. Welcome one and all. Good to see you. If you're out there on Facebook or YouTube, good to see you as well. If you want to join us in the Zoom call today, that's great. And I'll get together a link here if you want to join us on Zoom so that you can jump in, so you can register. Give me 1 second. Let's see here. Here we go. Perfect. All right, I'll let a few more people in, a couple people in the waiting room. Yep, if you're out there on Facebook or YouTube and you want to join us on Zoom right now, go ahead and click that link that I'm putting into the chat. That'll take you to a page where you can register and hop on in. Today's going to be an interactive session. So if you're interested in sharing your opinion, having a bit of a conversation, I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun and we'll appreciate it as well. So feel free to jump on in. And I will give an intro to today's session here. And, the general game plan is a couple of things. One is that we're going to talk through some of the options around what we're doing this next year in terms of Piano Technicians Masterclasses and Piano Tech Radio Hour. Would love to get your guys' feedback, input, opinions, and at the same time, I can just talk you through some of the game plan and see what interests people, see what clicks with folks. And also, I think that I will have an opportunity to share with you a couple of fun video clips. And in this case, we were just visiting Joe Jackson in St. Louis. And so I'll have some fun video clips to share with you. I think you'll be impressed and excited about those. I'm actually just pulling those up right now to make sure they're ready to go. If and when we do want to check those out. And we'll also probably take a minute to guide you through the upcoming masterclass, so you have the info and you can attend it and know what you're getting into if you would like to attend it. So I'll do an intro now. We've got a handful of people shuffled in so far. We'll probably have a couple more, but it's about that time. So I will say, welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. So what we do here is we gather every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world, including manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And for those of you that are joining us today by signing up for this radio hour session individually, you could make your life more convenient. You could subscribe to Piano Tech Radio Hour. It's just $16 a month. You get the recording of today's session in our member area, as well as automatic registration for each week's new session. You can sign up there at bit.ly/join PTRH. That's bit.ly /join PTRH. And while I'm talking about it, I'll take a minute to post about those two things in the chat here in Zoom, as well as on Facebook and YouTube. And give me a moment to do that. So briefly, here is a link if you're interested in joining the masterclasses, Piano Technicians Masterclasses, and finding more about that. I'll give that also to our viewers on Facebook and YouTube. And I see a couple other people are jumping in. That's great to see. And I'll follow that up with a link so you can join the radio hour sessions if you like. And also following up on that idea, we're really excited about the podcast and its growth. And I actually don't know if I mentioned that in my email today, but we have an interesting podcast concept potentially on the horizon. I would love to get all of your feedback on that and input on that. So let's start diving in, though. I think the first thing which I'd like to do is give you an overview of the kind of topics that we'd like to cover today. And actually, feel free to make a comment in the chat if you read the email that I sent out. I know it's a little bit short notice, but if you read the email and you're excited to give any input on some of the things that I mentioned in the email, feel free to just, kind of raise your hand and let me know that you're interested in sharing your opinion. But I will go over that right now for those of you that may not have gone too deeply into the email I sent out and we're prepared for the overview of the session. So basically, the idea is, we're nearing the end of 2023 here, and we're really looking to get a nice, solid plan of action, kind of put into, writing, or however you want to say it, like create a project plan, so on and so forth, for the end of 2023. So basically the rest of this Q4 2023, and then through the rest of 2024. And we got a handful of ideas, things to address. And, we were working on it independently, but it made a lot of sense to go ahead and just bring this up in front of everybody who attends and who's engaged here. I know some people will be reviewing the recording. I know we get, 1,000 people opening the emails and checking in on things. So if for some reason you're not attending here live, or you see this as a recording after the fact, feel free to reach out to us via email and let us know your thoughts about what comes up. But yeah, let me give you the general overview. Some stuff is going to be kind of obvious. Some stuff is going to be maybe things you weren't aware are on our agenda. So number one, we have our master classes. So every third Thursday of every month now, we do a master class. And of course, the difference between a master class and a radio hour is we're going to bring you more in-depth information. It's something that's included in our memberships for piano technicians master classes. And so you're either going to have a subscription to the master classes or pay, a one-time fee to attend the lecture. Because of that, we're trying to bring more advanced information, actionable information, things that you could probably turn around and make a good amount of money from. And so those are the master classes. And we tried to keep it consistent, basically this year we made the decision to just make it a really regular monthly thing, third Thursday of every month, that you can expect to attend that if you're interested, if you're a member, or you always know when it's coming. That having been said, we do have some master classes for the remainder of the year, which I'll talk about later, primarily on dampers, trap work, pedal system, and back action. And that should take us to the end of 2023. Joe Jackson's going to be doing a comprehensive series on that. I just came back from St. Louis, where I visited him to do some filming. And then for 2024, though, I think we only have a couple of things booked, and would really be interested to hear if anybody has opinions on what you'd like to see in that masterclass content. So we can talk about that. The other thing is the radio hour session. So that's where we are today. Oh, sorry, there's several people who are waiting to get in. Apologize if you were waiting. Apologize if you were waiting and you're just joining us. Didn't notice people were waiting to get in. So we're just going over what we're going to talk about today, basically the game plan for piano technicians masterclasses and radio hour through the end of the quarter here of 2023, and then throughout 2024. I was just describing that we're going to have to book our masterclasses out for 2024, and we'd love to get people's input and feedback. And then just moving on to, we'll be talking about the radio hour sessions as well. The radio hour sessions, we've tried various topics and personalities for these. There's a lot of flexibility here because this is kind of like I said, it's a more accessible, a little bit less pressure for the guest or the instructor, if you want to call them that, because it's not an official masterclass. It's a chance for us to get together, get some interesting information, learn some things, meet some people. Some cool networking opportunities have come out of these for myself as well as you all in the audience. So at the moment, we're doing things like covering actual, piano technology topics, whether it's a little bit of voicing or regulation or, damper work or whatever. We'll bring you some of the archival content that you may have missed. We'll also have guests who are talking about innovations a lot in the piano industry, or maybe what they're up to. One of our most popular podcast episodes, for example, is on, building your shop, putting your shop together, and talking about various topics, but sort of on the lighter side. And then the other personalities that we may bring in or information could be from related topics. Like, we talked about harps and harp building. We've talked about guitars and making handmade hollow body guitars. We've had Grammy winning recording engineers or Grammy nominated jazz flamenco pianist, right? So we can have musicians, we can have technicians in various industries and domains, tool experts, so on and so forth. It's all fair game, but I'm also interested in your opinions. So we basically have 50 sessions open for 2024 that we can book out, and we'd love to get your input on that. Topic number 3, which we haven't talked about at all, and would love to have your input on, is 3 basically event opportunities. One of them would be a live event, call it a convention or a mini convention. Probably would be based in the Chicago area. That's where I'm at currently. It's a nice central location, got some great options for, for using, actual location spots that would be a great spot to have people gather and learn some things. And that's going to be something that'd be, a matter of a few days. And there's various topic ideas that we could come up with. And, I think what I'm really interested in is what direction we want to take it. It could be very in-depth. When we did our online masterclasses, it was a type of thing where, when we did our online conventions, it was a type of thing where you didn't have an option whether you could go to multiple classes at the same time. We just tried to have really great content that you probably wanted to go to everything. And that was kind of cool. It created a very intimate environment. It allowed for everybody to kind of be on the same page and see each other and get to know each other. And we got a lot of great feedback on that. But we're open to doing other things. That's a great overview of that possibility. We're also going to do another online event, sort of like a convention type of thing. And I would think we'd probably have around 6 instructors. I think previously we've had as many as 9 instructors. And that's probably, again, going to be sort of a one at a time type of thing, but we could really pack a couple days full with that content. Interested to hear what you guys would think about that. Another type of thing, which is sort of a hybrid sort of convention type event, could be more of a professional development retreat. Something where we might just get a handful of folks together. Maybe it's just like 5 to 15 really serious technicians who want to get together, maybe dive deep on a specific topic or two, and also just have a chance to kind of, reflect and plan their own initiatives, professional initiatives in the upcoming year. As we all know, the summertime's kind of slow for our work. And so the summertime's a great time to do professional development, things like that. Would love to have your guys' input and interest on that. All the event type things that I just described over the summer, nothing's like officially set in stone yet. So there's no guarantee and exactly how it will manifest, but would love to get your guys' input. If we have time, I'm also going to talk about a potential podcast that could be launching within the next, say, 6 months or so, maybe 6 months to 9 months, that I've been sort of noodling on. Again, this is not a guarantee, but I think you guys might be interesting, and there's a potential to sort of integrate it into this program and have some fun sort of getting a community support behind the launch of a new type of program. All right. So that's a general overview of what's going on. I will, if there's also time, I'll kind of share some of the footage from visiting Joe Jackson on Monday, going to St. Louis, checking out his workshop and his domain there. He's got 23 employees. He's really built an incredible business that's doing great numbers and is very popular and positive and enthusiastic, and lots of culture and excitement around pianos in the St. Louis area. So we have some time, we'll cover that. But I do want to cover the initial stuff that I mentioned first. So and I'm looking for input here. Sometimes you guys are excited to share about your opinions or like engage. Sometimes everybody just wants to sit back and relax. So I'll put some topics up for talk. And if you bite, then we'll talk about it longer. If you're not extremely, if you're a little bit shy, I guess, then we'll just move on to other topics. It's completely open. So the first topic here that we're talking about is master classes. So as I said, third Thursday of every month, we're looking to do some master classes for year 2024. Anybody have any opinion? This is your time. You can say, hey, I'd really like to see something on dampers, or I'd like to see something on regulation, or I'd like to see something on finish work, or I'd like to see something on concert prep or voicing, or anybody have anything they'd like to share? You can type it in the chat. You can raise your hand. You can unmute yourself and just say hello. And say what's on your mind. And I will basically give just a few seconds for anybody to chime in here. And if you don't, I'll probably jump forward. So feel free to say something now or forever hold your peace. What do you got? All right. Anybody got anything? I see Doug maybe getting antsy there. Are you trying to unmute yourself, Dougie?
I was going to offer one. Can you hear me?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me change my audio settings because you're not coming through my headphones. Let me fix that.
Get a little closer.
No, that's on. I think it's on my end. Let me select. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to offer one on restoration of bass strings rather than replacement.
Mm-hmm.
Have several different techniques, and that could be a master class or could be a couple of Saturdays.
Okay.
If anyone's interested in that, a lot of pianos just don't justify buying a new set of strings and replacing them. And you can do this, some of the techniques that you can do in the piano, some of them I take out and put them back in, but it's a one-day procedure. So I'll throw that out there.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for participating. If anybody has any thoughts on that or ideas that sparks, feel free to jump on in and say something. But if not, we can continue going on. Anybody else have anything to share? Again, this is on the topic of masterclass content. Anything you want to say, let us know now. I would say speak now or forever hold your peace, but we will try to make some calls and reach out to folks in the community to really do some due diligence here and make sure we're creating things that everybody's really interested into. So I see some comments in the chat here. Let's check it out. So Joe Burrow says, would be interested in a masterclass on the protocols used in choosing hammer types if we have not had that already. I think that sounds like a great concept. There's a lot of options out there. I think it might be a little bit mystical for various folks. I can see a class where we would have maybe not just one person's opinion, because I definitely have seen in my experience as I talk to various people, there's some people who say, oh, I only go with this hammer type. That's the best. That's just my favorite. This is what I like. Or I only put this type on this type of piano. This is what I do. But at the same time, I hear other people saying something completely different. And so I think it would be good if we do something on choosing hammers to talk about, the different opinions that people have and why they have them. And as we often do with the master classes, we don't necessarily try to take sides or tell you what to do or tell you what information is, the absolute God's truth or something like that. They really just try to expose you to as much information as possible so you can make your most informed decisions. But I do like that idea. And in addition, I think there's even a little bit of content there on wrapping up that process. You've chosen the hammers, making sure you do a good job hanging them, making sure you're taking into account the proper weight, concepts and action geometry and all the things that go along with getting good hammers in order, including prepping those hammers with voicing, all that. So there's a lot of stuff I think that can go on with that. So I appreciate you sharing that topic, Joe. I love that people are getting participatory here. All right, Larry said likes the idea of Doug's class for bass string restoration. That sounds really good. I know we cover a little bit of that content, but it could be nice to kind of get deeper into it and give some examples. And I think, I would say that's one thing that I'm seeing in the piano industry with the vantage point that I have, sort of meeting and engaging with various different types of folks. Clearly there's the brand new piano market that is very, geared towards, let's make sure we have something shiny, bright, and new that, is flawless. And at the same time, I think that I've ran across several people that are doing a great service to their community where they're figuring out ways where they can take the pianos that would otherwise kind of be out of commission, or the owners would be less appreciative of how they're performing, and kind of souping them up with various things that doesn't give them a brand new shiny Steinway, but it really makes their instrument a lot better. It does it on a budget where they're excited about it and they're going to play the instrument more, and you have work as a technician. And I think things like this where you're sort of repairing or refurbishing a set of bass strings as opposed to replacing them, are those type of things where clients can really appreciate it and be profitable for us as technicians as well. And I have seen evidence that in terms of business decisions, that can be an interesting vertical of the market to put yourself in order to make sure you've got cost-effective things to do that people appreciate as services. Nancy Salmon says the master classes are a little bit pricey for her. She's hoping, this is a direct message, so you're getting this publicly. She's hoping that the presenters share well the income. She's aware that our work is invaluable. Teachers should also be compensated well. Yeah, I would say, I think we do try to take care of our teachers. And I think that it's great to have people join us. And I think that what I would say around the pricing of it, just to be fully discreet about it, is, as I said, we do like to share content. Sometimes we know you guys, some people don't care as much about the income side of it, meaning they know the income will come and they really just want great information. And so we understand that as well. And there's a certain audience type that cares more about having really good information that's going to satisfy their piano nerd and their level of quality, and they'll take care of the rest in terms of their financial return on investment. And at the same time, we do try to share with you content where you could easily turn around and make the investment back within a few, maybe even just one job that you get applying the things that you've learned. Doug just spoke up, right? I think some of the content that he shared is one of those cases where, we don't always get explicit into numbers, but there's a lot of cases where, some of that French polish stuff that he's brought up, some of the other, nick and dent repairs and stuff like that, that can be really lucrative work. And there's very few people that can do it in various communities. And so it's even that more profitable for you to just take an hour or two, learn what you're doing, practice a little bit, get out in the field and start making some money. All right. Joe Burrows says a masterclass in rejuvenating soundboards with the epoxy technique, if we have not had that already. And I would say that we did have a masterclass with Del Fondrick, who is basically, the pioneer in that field. We did do that, resurrecting soundboards. At the same time, we have seen that there is some advantage to doing master classes with different folks, maybe on the same topic. And that's just because there's always different learning styles. For example, right now with this master class that we're doing with Joe Jackson on the pedals and the damper system, trap work, and the back action, we've had some master classes on dampers. We have them with Steve Brady. The content with Steve Brady was, heavily focused on some kind of PowerPoint type slides. We did a little bit of video, sharing things like that. And so you can have multiple presentations on the same topic and it can fill out, the gaps where things are missing. So I love that you shared that, Joe. That's definitely something that we can explore. And it's also another case where, we can do affordable work as piano technicians by learning a technique like this, and everybody wins. Like the client's happy because it's not as expensive as replacing a soundboard. You're happy because it's a profitable endeavor for you. You're not spending hours, and when you add it all up, you're like, oh, look, I made $2 an hour. You're actually making making income that you can, feel was worth your time. And also, I think Doug had brought this up as well. Sometimes like replacing a soundboard is actually not necessarily, even though it seems like the right idea for the sound of the piano or the function of the piano, it actually may not be a good idea. You may be actually looking good or like feeling good about sort of being thorough. And at the same time, maybe you're not actually improving the sound. Maybe you're doing more work than really needs to be done. It's kind of overkill. So that's a great idea. Expanding on the hammer idea, again, says Joe, a masterclass on the protocols for choosing combination of action ratio, hammer choice, hammer weight, key weights to create the desired tone and touch. Love that. We do have some content with Jude Reveley on that topic as well. But I think, and we've also done some stuff with, of course, David Stanwood, who's kind of like the founder of these type of techniques of doing action, weighting, balancing techniques and stuff like that. But yeah, I think there is a place to dive deeper into this and really have a nice comprehensive masterclass on getting through that entire process and really treating it like an artisan process, which I think the people that do this, hammer choice, hammer weight, key weights, all this stuff, it's really about that kind of like you get to be almost like an auteur, like a craftsman, and you get to share your kind of you develop your skills and talents and abilities at creating something custom, which I think is really great. Again, from Joe about the epoxy soundboard idea, maybe the class that talks about how to evaluate a soundboard or see if it needs replacing or rejuvenating. Great stuff. Luckily, I'll be able to share this chat text. It downloads automatically when we're done. So there's a lot of great ideas here. And also following up on what I was saying, exactly how do you bring all these action aspects together in a working system? I love that. And we do have, I think one thing which I will mention, which I'm sure I'll probably get some positive reinforcement on, and it's in line with kind of some of the stuff that Joe is bringing up here, is we are working here behind the scenes on making our content easier to sort of understand what's available. At this point, we've been at this since 2017, so 5 or 6 years, and we've actually built up quite a bit of content, especially between the master classes and the radio hours. And at the same time, we haven't always had the bandwidth to document everything very clearly, both for the subscribers and the non-subscribers. So I know some of the subscribers are going in there into our member area and saying, hey, how do I find stuff? How do I know what's there? And that can be a bit of a challenge on our end to make it easy to search and find different things. And we're definitely diligently working on that as part of our plan for the end of 2023 and into 2024. So you can definitely look out for a more informative approach. And that's for non-subscribers. So you can come to the website and be like, well, what's here? What am I going to get into if I get into this thing? As well as the subscribers. Once you're subscribing, you log into the member area and you can see a clear outline of what content's available, how do I access it, and so on and so forth. So I just want to let everybody know that that's probably one of the highest things on our agenda right now, besides the stuff that I'm talking about. All right, that is the end of the comments here that are in existence. I see Johan Krebs kind of waving his hand. What do you got for us, Johan? Yeah, you're muted. We'll unmute you. I'll ask you to unmute. You could probably just click the button. Kind of figuring it out. How do I do that? Or maybe he's typing something. There you go.
Yeah. So,
how's it going? Yeah. What do you got for us?
Yeah. Thanks, Ethan. On the topic of rejuvenating tuning, I don't think it has ever been talked about in the sense I'm thinking of. Like at the moment, let me go back.
Wait 1 second. Let me pause you. There's wherever your microphone is, you might accidentally be rubbing it with your hand or something. So we're getting a little.
Sorry. Let me go back one step.
Yeah.
When David Anderson was still among us, we had talk about our profession being sort of stagnant, having come to a dead end, no new developments on the tuning level. We had many new approaches about setting temperament and that was very good. but not about tuning itself. So
Mhm.
I've dedicated my life to that subject.
Hmm.
And it has to do with our approach to tuning and voicing. I have a feeling, and I like to discuss that with as many people as possible, that we're putting the cart before the horse. That's why we're stuck. We're not seeing our tuning going on to higher levels to serve music.
Hmm.
And I'm talking about the corner of the world where I live, China and Europe, Germany and Switzerland. That's my experience area. So what
Where are
we
you
do,
located right now?
I'm in Vancouver, British
Okay.
Columbia, on the west
Okay.
coast, just above
Got it.
Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll be a little blunt, and I don't want to hurt anybody, but I think, and the way I was taught as well, we see the piano as a box with tuning pins, largely. Well, that sounds pretty stark. There's more to it. And so we tune a piano and then go into voicing, trying to even it out. The problem is that our approach to voicing is compensatory. It is not the source, I have found, of unevenness or whatever we try to solve by voicing. But we have to do it that way because we've done the tuning already. We don't want to go back on our tuning and do it again just because our voicing approach is wrong. So what I have been working on is trying to find the source, the real source of voicing problems. And I can tell you now already that it is not in the hammers. So voicing hammers may indeed be totally inappropriate, certainly after a tuning. So what I've come to, and I'll be very simple at the moment, strings have more than one function. It's not just the tension that gives us the frequency. There's more to strings. Many of the piano's functions actually reside in the strings. And that's where my focus lies at the moment. Correcting, bringing out all the string functions and not leaving them alone and end up with an incomplete tuning where we have to do voicing. And voicing, especially if we use hardeners in my area again, every piano almost that I come to, whether it's a concert piano or not, in the many halls, have different sounding registers. And there are many complaints from artists, yet nobody has the skill to really deal with that because our approach is incorrect, in my view. And I'll make it very personal, it's my view. So
what are these functions? You maybe mention a couple of the functions of the string that besides the tension, right. I guess.
Yeah, just keeping it short. What we can bring back is full resonance, full harmony, and the range. Also the sensitivity in the touch, and a much more even and uniform sound. That is quite a bit. In fact, that's all of music making. And takes about 4.5 hours on most pianos, unless you need to do repairs, of course. But that is something I might be able to contribute a little bit and put it out there for everybody to contemplate and see if there might be a reason to change our approach collectively. Not just me, but the whole world, because it's everywhere. Right. And the factories need to change. So it can become, if this is accepted, a very big thing, a total change of our direction as piano technicians and tuners.
All right. Well, if somebody's interested in that, thanks, Johan. If they're interested, kind of make a comment here, direct comment or in the general chat, and we'll consider that topic. Yeah, I mean, I was just talking with someone from Steinway actually, and they were mentioning this topic of ear tuning and how very few technicians out there are doing ear tuning these days. It's so easy to use the device, and they're intimidated to actually be an ear tuner. And he had this sort of impetus to kind of cut people off or teach them how to cut themselves off, right, and just jump right into doing the ear tuning. And I think it's probably not exactly what Johan's talking about, but I think that, personally, you guys may or may not know, I don't get out there to do a ton of tuning myself. So I'm not always up to date on what people are doing and kind of keeping up to date, but I've been doing it a little bit more as of late, here in the Chicago area, and, and just watching various people do their work. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of disadvantages to not incorporating the ear even in doing your tuning process, right? Just even tweaking a digital tuning device's tuning with your ear, or going back and working through the temperament or things like that with your ear is an immense amount of richness that gets introduced by actually using your ear to do the tuning. So I'm sure that it's either not exactly what Johan is referring to, or maybe it's a part of it. But I think that it's something that in some of our lives is getting ignored, right? And of course, that's one of those things. That's what we're in business to do, to make the piano sound beautiful. And our ears are the best instrument to really do that ultimately. And so I think that's, those are topics too that we could talk about as well in the masterclass type of format. All right, let's see here. Joe is saying, let's see here exactly what I'm thinking. Joe is saying again, not sure what Johan is getting at. Isn't that what a good concert tech does when preparing high-end pianos for a concert? Or is he talking about working on pianos that are not concert pianos? It sounded to me like maybe Johan had more of like kind of comprehensive technique that he's been thinking through. And I'm not exactly sure, maybe we just have to investigate further. I can't say that I'm exactly sure exactly what he's would be going into the domain of, but he sounded like he's been thinking about it pretty deeply. So, something to consider. Let's if I'm going to maybe move on to talking about the radio hour content, because actually time is passing probably even more quickly than I thought today. We've talked about master classes, although if we want to stick to master classes and there's some other sort of deeper content people want to get into, please go ahead and speak up. But if I don't see anything immediately, we'll dive into the topic of the radio hours. So again, generally, I do know some people out there, maybe wish the radio hours are a little bit more meaty in terms of content. And at the same time, that's, it's kind of the model that we have here in that the radio hours, we can share a certain amount, but a lot of the meat of what we do is getting into the master classes. And so that's a place where you're going to see more in-depth content, more applicable content where you can take action on it, things like that. And the radio hour gives us a chance to kind of network and, keep our brains fresh, make sure we're on top of our game, and our sort of piano nerd intellect is at the top of its performance. So I'm curious if anybody has any ideas about what would make some good masterclass content moving forward. And I can also potentially use that as a segue to talk about the podcast concept that I've been thinking over. But, when you show up here on a Saturday, or you listen to the podcast, or you're a member of Piano Tech Radio Hour and you get into the member area and you want to review a recording, is there anything that you can think of that you would like to hear, right? We've got different domains. There's personalities, and those personalities can either be personalities who are not piano technicians or they are piano technicians, right? We can have more musicians come and join us. We can have more technicians come and join us. There's topics that we can cover. We can get more technical. There are people out there that would love to join us for a radio hour and maybe do a short PowerPoint presentation on an interesting topic. I'm curious what you guys have thought about when we bring in, outside domains like a recording engineer or, a guitar maker or the harp maker and stuff like that. Again, I'll sort of launch the question. We'll see what kind of traction we get, and we'll spend as much time as folks are interested to on the radio hour content. Anybody have any suggestions for topics, people that they would like to see in these Saturday sessions or the podcast coming up here in the near future? Let's see here. Joe, again, thanks so much for all your participation, Joe. Joe is saying, be interesting to interview excellent pianists who are also piano techs and how they think about and approach tuning and working on pianos. Yeah, I like that idea. And we've had a couple people, I think Fred Sturm was a really good example of someone who's kind of a pretty great musician, but also a piano tech, and sharing that perspective. Steve Brady was an interesting sort of application of that potential idea. He wasn't necessarily the fine pianist, but his wife was, right? So we got a chance to like have a class on voicing and have her play the piano before and after and give her opinion and give a little performance. We have had a couple other people who are piano players and got a little bit into tuning and technical work. But yeah, and I think if anybody knows of anyone who they say, hey, here's someone who, they're a great pianist who is a pianist, but they happen to know more technically about the instrument than you might think. Or, here's somebody from our community. They're a really great piano tuner, but wow, you should hear them play piano because, they're incredible. I've never heard Mario Egret play the piano, but I found the content in his book really informative in the way he presented it. I want to say I believe he studied to be like a performer in pianos. I can't remember. Yeah, he studied to be a concert pianist, right? So there's another good example. It might be interesting to have someone like Mario come on, but he's a great instructor. Of course, he's a lot of great knowledge, research to share. And at the same time, I don't know that we've heard from him as a pianist. And I think that could be interesting. I don't know how much he plays anymore, if he's really active or he's just focused on the technical stuff. But yeah, it would be interesting to have him, even playing a piano and describing how he's interacting. It's a little bit more of the intuitive side of things. Mario tends to be very technical, but it might be interesting to see him coming in from a more intuitive, performative style of sharing things. So that's another option. I'm trying to think. I don't know offhand, but I'm sure there's got to be. I mean, I myself am a jazz trained piano player. And I know I went to university for it. I know a lot of us have studied music, but sometimes it's as an educator, or, maybe you're a trombonist or a bass player or something like that. But I would have to guess that, I don't know, a good 10% of piano technicians got to be, on the top 20%, of the general population and the skills and abilities on playing the piano. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, sure, there are a lot of great pianists who are technicians and technicians who are pianists. So I would say, if you're listening to this live or on the recording and you are that person, feel free to reach out to us. You can always email ethan@pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. My name is EATHAN. It's a little bit of a funny spelling. You can reply to one of our emails as well. That's probably the easiest way. But yeah, Joe, I think it is funny that we don't hear techs talk about their work from their experience as pianists. It's interesting. It's interesting too. I have noticed that, sometimes we end up talking a little bit more about kind of shop perspective, right? Or like the kind of mechanical perspective of the pianos, just by the natures of maybe our personalities and what we actually focus on. But ultimately it comes down to music, and I do appreciate all the moments we get to make that connection to music, because I do think sometimes that it's easy to kind of, aside from that 5 or 10 minutes when you're done tuning a piano and you play a little bit, to make that direct connection to the music. All right. I'll give a last call here for topics for the radio hour, because I'd love to dive into some of the other things that I want to talk about. So last call, if you had any other radio hour ideas, pop them in the chat. Doug, go ahead. Go ahead and unmute yourself. What you got? Working on that unmute. I think you're good now. Say hello.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
All right.
What you got for us?
One of the questions that always frustrated me, or subjects frustrated me, is good recordings of the piano and how to do that well. You know, I'd like to do a program on voicing, but getting a really good recording is hard.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I find that iPad or a phone tends to be very bright
Mm-hmm.
relative to the real sound. So if someone has some ideas to come up with a good mic to go along with, say, an iPad or an iPhone,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be interested. I have one that's pretty decent. It's a bidirectional, but it's still not perfect. So someone else might have more experience with recordings other than a recording studio with thousands of dollars worth of equipment.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. I think, and I'll remove the spotlight, but I think I don't have anything offhand, but I do have from memory, you know, we've done some master classes. I don't know that they're terribly expensive, but they're not terribly cheap either. You know, I've seen a couple of mics used consistently to kind of pop under a piano or on top of the strings or soundboard there to do a good job of recording. Oftentimes, there's always at least two of them, which is an interesting aspect that I've seen of recording piano. And I would say if we're into the delving into the domain of what I would call prosumer equipment, right? That's sort of like consumer level microphone equipment, but a little bit more pro, but not the professional level that costs thousands of dollars. One thing to remember about all this, when you look at the marketing around said microphone, you know, nowadays they do a lot to kind of engineer, let's call it, the various mics for their purpose. So for example, let's turn that off. For example, there's so many microphones these days that are engineered for voice. And as somebody who studied a little bit of signal processing in my PhD, audio signal processing, that's a big deal. And that is part of the reason that you'll find on some of these mics that are sort of, you know, just your standard prosumer microphone that you can attach to your iPad or something. Why doesn't it quite capture music? Well, it's because they haven't even thought about music. It's really, how is it going to capture that voice? What's the range, you know, of a voice? What are the typical patterns and sonorities and so forth of a voice? So let's engineer it that way. And a lot of them now even have a bit of software built in to optimize for that as well. And that'll really throw things off with music. So if I were looking for a microphone to capture good sound, and it's going to go into an iPad or an iPhone or something like that, I would look for something that's specifically marketed around recording music. And you will see those type of things. The company Zoom, for example, they have various recording devices. Some of them, I would watch out. Some of them are geared towards recording voice audio, though, right? Look for the ones that are geared towards recording musical content, and you'll probably get into a better range of sort of those mics that you can hook up to an iPad or something like that, but they're going to do a pretty good job capturing more of the richness of a musical tone, something like that. Yeah, Johan, you're raising your hand again. Did you have something else to add?
Yeah, very briefly about recording.
Uh-huh.
My latest engagement with a recording studio was that I was asked to match the tone of the piano to the voice of the singer. It worked. They were so happy. And it was the best recording quality I've ever heard in my 50 years of tuning university, etc.
That's beautiful.
And I like to share that because, yeah, and in fact, in one of the churches where there's a lot of concerts given, the music director said, after recording himself, I had a feeling that I had totally different recording equipment of a much higher quality than I'm usually using, until he found out that I had done the work. And and it concerned a Yamaha piano, and I think most Yamaha grand pianos need an upgrade. Another topic, but it fits in. And Yamaha pianos from the 70s and 80s. I do not know beyond. I have not worked with Yamahas beyond that time frame yet for the upgrade, but that's also worth sharing.
Yeah.
And anyhow, I have to keep it brief. We're almost at the end. So,
yeah. No, it's been great. I mean, I wasn't sure whether people would engage or not, so it's always good to have engagement.
Yeah.
Sorry
for the shaking. But here.
Yeah, no problem. I would say I'll put you on mute too, just so we can make sure we don't get too much background noise. But yeah, just in line with what you're saying, I think that you know that it's easy. I feel like I have two. I'll be fully honest. I feel like I have two voices in my head when someone talks like you're talking to Johan. I feel like one of them is going, "Oh man, this is just too like it's not. You can't. You can't do that. You can't get so detailed and make it the piano match the voice or something." And there's another part of me that goes, "You know what? I mean, but maybe I should try it for myself and see what happens." And I think it goes along with a concept that I think we've seen over and over again with some of my favorite instructors and technicians. Sally Phillips jumps to mind as a really high-end technician. It's the little things. It's the things that everybody else would decide not to do, but you decide to do it, that often does take things to the next level. And maybe they're the things that you can't describe, or the things you couldn't tell someone else how to do, but you kind of are feeling your way through it. And maybe you're not sure it's making a difference or not, but you're trying it. You're putting the time and energy in. I would say, in general, the conclusion I come to when I see people doing great work, that's craft. That's where craft comes in. You're a craft person if you're spending extra time and energy in a way that the average person in your field might ignore. And I feel like that is where it comes into craft and doing things in a way that people will notice, but they may not be able to describe, but they'll know the difference. For myself, if I were to explain how it comes across, for me, I decided at a certain point in my tuning career, I just tuned a piano the other day. It was a terrible Spinet, a Whitney Spinet. It probably hadn't been tuned so many years. It was something that this guy inherited with the house that he bought, and probably from the 60s or 70s. Let me tell you, that thing did not sound very good by the time that I was done tuning it, right? At the same time, I fought the voices in my head that said, hey, it doesn't matter. This is just a Whitney Spinet, and it doesn't matter. This guy just inherited this piano. He didn't buy it. He doesn't care that much. I fought the voices in my head and I said, you know what? I'm just going to tune it like it was my piano. And I wanted the best out of this instrument. And I have to say, that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about here. It's the putting the extra little bit into it. You can't explain it. But when you go back and listen to it after you did it, and this is sort of a circuitous way of me getting the point I wanted to make, is you might think that the client or the performer doesn't notice, and they might not notice if it didn't happen. But once it does happen, once you do dive into it, once you do go the extra mile, they know there's something there. They can't describe it. On their level, it's probably even subconscious, but they go, I've got a good tuner here, or this piano sounds like it never had before, or it couldn't be this way. So anyways, that would just be to support a little bit this kind of concept you're trying to share, Johan. All right, we have about 5 minutes left. Let me review a little bit of the game plan here. So we want to talk about this. Actually, this is something I didn't necessarily want to shortchange, but I guess briefly, let's talk about summer professional development events. I'm curious, are people interested? Are people here? We've got a handful of people here. If you're listening later, feel free to reach out. Are you interested in an on-site event? We actually haven't ever done with Piano Technicians Masterclass an on-site event, but we certainly have the chops to be able to pull something like that together. And it would be interesting to see what people what would convince you to come to Chicago, for example, travel out and spend a few days learning about XYZ? What would it be? Or who would you meet? Or, who would we bring together that doesn't typically get brought together? Again, if you don't have any ideas, it's fine. If you do, great, share something in the chat or raise your hand or unmute yourself. While you're thinking about that, I'll go through the other things that I mentioned as well. An online thing, right? Okay, maybe nothing would get you to travel all the way to Chicago. Some of us, that's kind of why we're here. We're very busy, and life's going fine. Our lifestyle's pretty lucrative where we're at. But hey, if I can just tune into something online, yeah, sure. So anything that would get you, excited, amped up about something that we would do in terms of an online event, feel free to mention. Let's see what we got here. Something in the chat. So Joe, again, thanks for all your participation. Let's see here. 2 most recent comments. One, you said, it's funny that don't hear techs talk about their work from their experience at piano. We talked about that. He said something, a direct message, but he did say, for myself, probably not. There are a lot of great technicals at PT chapters in New England and New York have on a regular basis. Yep, I do hear that. And that's good information for us. I mean, in the end, we're not going to do an on-site event if people don't want to come. But if we can pull something together that people are interested in, I think we have a unique opportunity to do something different. I guess I would put it that way. There's the PTG convention, there's regional conventions, there's things that are going on in Europe. And at the same time, those things have been going on and they have their format and they have the way they're put together and they have the folks that are there. One thing that I always thought was an interesting shift in a potential direction for a live event is, can you bring pianists and piano teachers and these industry professionals, dealers and stuff like this, and the technicians, and can you bring them all in the same space for some reason? Because I'll be fully honest, I've heard it a handful of times. There's people in the piano industry that would rather show up at the NAMM convention, I'm not going to name any names, than go to the PTG convention, because that resonates more with them, but they're doing things around pianos and keyboards. It's just for some reason, maybe there's a bigger draw or there's more overlap with other things. And so I do think there's some way to go a little bit broader into the scene of pianos and create a context where technicians want to show up, but also we might get, teachers, players, all involved in something interesting around pianos. That's an interesting, just to, get your juices flowing on being creative about this stuff. Some other things would be a more intimate thing that's like, we all get together and rebuild a piano. We get a couple experts in different domains and sort of walk everybody through the process and we can all participate. And again, these could be things that maybe you only have 5, 10, 15 people, right? There's people, there's at least 1,000, several thousand piano technicians on the globe. If we create something specialized that a small group is interested in, that's fine. Not everybody has to come. We can make a specialized event for special folks. Let's see here if we have any other comments. All right. So the other thing would be maybe a little bit less technical, or maybe a little bit more focused, or maybe you might think about it as something that's a little bit more intimate. So the other option was some sort of like a professional retreat, which might be a little bit different. Maybe we try to not do it in Chicago, do it in another location where it's something where it's maybe culturally enriching as well as being about pianos. And maybe it's a networking opportunity with other technicians who do something similar to you. Maybe we do something that's focused on the top level folks in the industry, just getting together and kind of, brainstorming with each other on how to optimize their craft or their business or something like that. So anyways, if there's anything else that people have ideas there, feel free to share them. Nancy says, heartily endorse these ideas presented and the work we've done. She'll work on seeing the master classes. All right, great. All right, I just will share very briefly. Okay, William Stewart says, would love to hear us interview Wayne Stewart, Australia, incredible builder and innovator. Yeah, that sounds great. I love that type of stuff. Anybody, we've even arranged a few things where people send us an email and say, hey, this would be a great guest for Radio Hour. We get connected, we pull it together, and all that stuff is great, especially when it comes from you guys, because we know we've got at least 1 or 2 people out there that are interested. So it's a great indicator that it's valuable content for you guys. We're basically done with the hour. I think maybe briefly, I will just share. I will share the masterclass links for Joe Jackson. So it's a 4-part series. We already did part 1. Part 2 is coming up here. And I'm going to put the links in the chat. I'll put that on Facebook, YouTube. I'll also put that here in the Zoom call. We'd love to have you sign up and check those out. Let me get that out on YouTube as well. Where are we? Put this in the comments. So yeah, it's a 4-part series. Part number 1 was more of an overview on the, the trap work, pedal, back action dampers. And part 2 is specifically the pedals and trap work. And again, I just visited Joe Jackson in St. Louis. And so we went over that a little bit, and I can share with you a couple of interesting things. Let's see here. Maybe, yeah, I think this is worth maybe a couple extra minutes, because I think this is fun and it'll get you guys amped up about what we're going to share from St. Louis. Let me pull this up. All right, I'll do a screen share, put that there, and let's grab this other one, put it up here. Beautiful. Okay. Yeah, I'll do a quick screen share of just a couple of things, and then we'll roll out from our session today. All right, screen share. Share screen, share sound, optimize, screen 2. Okay, so the first thing would just be the website here. So this is the part 2 website for Joe Jackson's masterclasses, where we're talking about trap work and pedals. It's really great stuff. I mean, we're getting really great content on Joe, basically, doing this stuff that he just does every day. And he runs a really awesome business there in St. Louis. We've gotten together the content here, listed out on the website, what all is involved. So we have these 4 different parts. Lecture 1, the whole introduction, basically an appetizer to the course, an overview of things in the pedal, trap work, back action, and dampers topic. Lecture 2 dives into trap work and pedals. Lecture 3 dives into back action and dampers. And then lecture 4 is putting everything together and making sure, everything's aligned and tweaked properly. And let me make sure that I share this video, although let me see here. I think I might have grabbed the wrong one here. Let's put this one up. Pop this up here. Yeah, I think that's a little bit different. Well, I just thought it would be fun to share with you the type of camera work that we were able to use in this particular lecture. Now, this is actually going to be a bit of a tour of Joe's shop, but you're going to see why it's very interesting in a moment. Let's see if we get the audio going as well.
Okay, so we do over 300 regulations and refurbishments of uprights a year. I don't know anybody who does that. Plus the 100+ grands that we do a year. We're a powerhouse for refurbishment. We're a rare bird. Come on down this way. We're going to show you our finish department.
Fast forward a little bit here so you get a sense of this.
We have our finish department.
If you're noticing what I'm doing here is I'm sort of scrolling from side to side.
At Jackson Pianos, we only use low to no VOC waterborne products. We spray no lacquers.
So basically, we'll fast forward a little bit.
And nothing flammable whatsoever.
So we're using a new
we do
video technology,
traditional
which allows
Mason Hamlin's,
for you to have for us to have
Steinway,
basically
all
a
that stuff.
360 view of everything that's going on at the same time. So now we will share some videos publicly, or public, we'll share some publicly, we'll share some with our subscribers where you can actually do what I'm doing, where you'll get a copy of a video where you can actually go in there and you can say, oh, I wanted to look at this part of that or this part of that, or, I wanted to zoom in on this or that, see what's over here, see what's going on. This is really great technology that we have the opportunity to implement. And we started implementing that on Joe's masterclass recording just now when I visited him in St. Louis. It's a little bit of a shop tour that he was giving. But and again, I just thought it might be worth taking just a minute to share that type of stuff with you guys so you can see the type of new technologies that we're involving in our process. So you can look forward to that part of this masterclass with Joe Jackson. We hope you guys sign up and check it out. I'll do the sign off here in a moment. I didn't get to talk about the podcast concept that we'd like to work on, but maybe we can save that for another show. I'm sure you guys will have a lot to say about that as well. But for now, I will say we've reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. And thank you for everyone that joined us today and provided your feedback and input. It's been great. As always, we're brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, cutting edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. For those of you that joined us today by signing up for this session individually, you can make your life more convenient. Subscribe to PTRH at just $16 a month. You'll get the recording of today's session in our member area, automatic registration for each week's new session. Sign up at bit.ly/join PTRH, bit.ly/join PTRH. All right. We'll see you guys all again next week. Thanks again for joining us. Thanks a lot for all your input and feedback and participation. See you next time.